Hello, it's Lydia here, and in this video I'm going to show you how I have made this, how I've done the embroidery. I'll take you through every stitch done in it, and the pattern is available in my Etsy shop. The pattern also includes all the details of the materials you need, the stitches, everything. But for me, if I'm trying to follow a pattern, I kind of need a video to go along with it. I think I'm more of a visual learner. I need to see how it's done, and so I had the idea to make this pattern. I really wanted to make it available because I think it's pretty. So yeah, and then I also wanted to make a video to go along with it, to just help the learning. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. So we're going to start off with the Satin Stitch. It's a very useful and fast stitch for filling in large areas of space with thread. So you come up where you've drawn your line and you go straight all the way across to fill in the shape. You continue doing this until your shape is filled. One of the things with the Satin Stitch is that it's important to make sure there's no material showing in between the stitches. So for the leaves, we do a back stitch. For the back stitch, you come up where you have your line and then you go back down. Next, you come up a little bit further away from your first stitch so that you have a gap that's the same length of your first stitch. It sounds a bit complicated, but the basic idea is that you just try to make your stitches as even as possible. So you bring your needle up and then you go back and put your needle through the hole that the first stitch went down. And make sure that there are no gaps between each stitch so that you have a solid line. So the way I've done it is I go up the top of the stem of the leaf, and I go around one of the sides, and then I go around the other side, and then I fill in the middle. But really, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. To fill the insides of the leaf, I also use the back stitch. I use one stitch for the shorter sides and then 2 or 3 stitches for the longer sides. When I'm finished with a section, or if I run out of thread, I tie a knot as close to the material as I can so that there's no extra thread to get in your way, and then I cut it as close as possible. Yeah, it's better not to have a whole lot of thread at the back of your piece because it can just get in the way. So for all of the flower petals, I'm using the satin stitch. And a good tip to make sure each petal is symmetrical is to have your first stitch in the middle of the petal and then fill in the petal on either side. So I'm just coming up and going down where I've drawn the outline. So these are the most complicated petals. I'm going to draw 2 lines in the middle of the petal with my water erasable pen. Now I'm going to go in with the satin stitch, and instead of doing the stitch straight across, I do it diagonally, starting at the bottom in the middle where I've drawn the line. And I'm not going to go straight across, but I'll go diagonally and fill in the empty space later. Then I'll go diagonally up along the line that I've drawn. Once I get to the top of the line, I make a stitch from the top of the line to the top of the petal. And then I'll fill in this empty triangle space by dividing the space in half and then continually just filling up the halves. So I put my thread in where half of the triangle is. And then I'll go in to the center and fill in one of these halves. I do the same on the other side, create a triangle, make sure your line is a bit diagonal, and then fill in the halves of the triangle. I do this so that the petal will be symmetrical. If you don't go by halves, it can be hard to make sure each side lines up and is the same. Once this is done, I continue to stitch diagonal lines down the side of my petal, and yeah, just continue till I get to the bottom. At the bottom, I just fill in this space with a diagonal satin stitch. Then I do one long stitch in the middle where I drew the line to kind of cover up this space that can be a bit messy. Now it's time to do the other side. yeah, it's basically the same on both sides, so I'm not going to go through it again, but you can watch and see how I've done it. With this petal, I'm also using the Satin Stitch, starting in the middle, like I've said before, and then filling in one side and going to the other side, filling that in to make sure that each of the lines are straight, it's uniform, it's symmetrical, it's nice and neat. I try and make sure that I don't leave any material showing in between the petals. And then do the same on the other side. This is the final petal using the Satin Stitch. I start in the middle and then fill in both sides, making sure there's no gaps in between that the material would show through. I also fill in this little circle using the Satin Stitch, starting in the middle and then going to both sides. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and anything that was maybe a bit too complicated that you didn't understand, please message me. I'd love to go through it with you. If you do make this design, please post a photo and tag me. I'd love to see what you do. Have a good week. Thank you for watching.